Topsy-turvy. How Mitch McConnell is supporting Joe Biden's agenda. It has been so long that few of us remember that Putin, and many others, believed Russia would be in Kyiv in 2 weeks as an occupying force with only a hit-and-run insurgency in opposition. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than that didn't happen, in part due to a strong commitment from the United States and NATO to assist Ukraine. Obviously, the primary credit goes to President Volodymyr Zelensky, who showed the world that the comedian who played the president on a television show could be a hero standing up for democracy. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. With respect to defending democracy, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is closer to President Biden on foreign affairs than some of his colleagues in the Senate and probably a significant majority in the House. During a Face the Nation interview, CBS News Marget Brennan asked McConnell if he would insist on bundling aid to Ukraine and Israel and why the GOP-led House of Representatives decoupled the two. "I just think that's a mistake. I mean, I know there are some Republicans in the Senate, and maybe more in the House, saying Ukraine is somehow different. I view it as all interconnected." Time equals 400 ms. Greater than that is because it is all interconnected. Russia supports Iran and vice versa, and both support terrorism in the world, especially terrorism that challenges the United States. McConnell really pushed back on the idea that aid for Ukraine is some kind of welfare. Donald Trump Jr. calls Ukraine a welfare nation because the money apportioned is actually spent here in the U.S. in buying U.S. weaponry. One can think of it as a terribly tragic economic stimulus. No Americans are getting killed in Ukraine. We're rebuilding our industrial base. The Ukrainians are destroying the army of one of our biggest rivals. I have a hard time finding anything wrong with that. I think it's wonderful that they're defending themselves, and also the notion that the Europeans are not doing enough. It is pretty well understood why Trump cannot criticize Putin. Pretty clearly, Putin has something he hangs over Trump's head. Even if Putin doesn't, it sure appears he does, so there's little difference. As to the other Republicans falling in line behind Trump and where their loyalty to Russia comes from, there is a terribly disconcerting explanation. Trump and the MAGA party want to implement Russia's government here, a subject I've written on extensively. They aren't hiding it. From Trump's speech at CPAC, "I will send in the National Guard until law and order is restored." You know we're not supposed to do that, correct? Because under our Constitution, the military is separate from the police, and the federal government doesn't suppress citizens with tanks in the cities. But doesn't that sound like Russia? Is a guy who sends the military into the cities going to hold real elections ever again? Or is he simply going to declare an emergency and dictate until things are better? Dictators almost always start out as temporary solutions. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. Trump went on to say, "Frankly, the federal government should take over control and management of Washington, D.C. I wouldn't even call the mayor fascism. Take control of the Capitol first." Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. And if he controls Washington, D.C., is he letting anyone in who might threaten his grip on power? Right after promising to be CPAC's retribution and vengeance, he then laid out how over half of Americans must be considered the enemy. "The sinister forces trying to kill America have done everything they can to stop me, to silence you, and to turn this nation into a socialist dumping ground for criminals, junkies, Marxists, thugs, radicals and dangerous refugees that no other country wants. We are subhuman and want to destroy America. It makes it easier to have an American gun is pointed at an American when dehumanizing fellow citizens." Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. No Democrat can ever trust McConnell, but McConnell sees this happening, too, and while his standing up for democracy in Ukraine is a good sign, he can't be trusted. But discussing the importance of protecting democracy abroad makes it much easier to transition into talking about it here at home. We certainly have a lot to gear up for in 2024. For now, pushing democratic ideals abroad prepares us for the same fight at home. Trump has promised an agenda. No one can say that he will surprise us if elected. Mitt Romney believes the same. In his interview this weekend, Romney said, "Half of my party wants to throw away the Constitution." Perhaps his book, Romney, A Reckoning, will be stocked full of stories that include what Republicans really say about Trump and create another rift in MAGA. It truly would matter because Trump can't take criticism, and it could provide a schism. I firmly believe that's why he wrote it. I can be reached at jasonmichiak@gmail.com and on X at jasonmichiak. Editor's note: this is an opinion column that solely reflects the opinions of the author. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than. Jason Michiak. Jason Michiak is an associate editor and opinion writer for Occupy Democrats. He's a Canadian-American who grew up in the Pacific Northwest. He is a trained attorney, but for the last 5 years, he's devoted his time to writing political news and analysis. He enjoys life on the Gulf Coast as a single dad to a 15-year-old daughter. Hobbies include flower pots, cooking, and doing what his daughter tells him they're doing. Sign up to get all of my posts by email right here. Latest posts.